Hey, how's it going, everybody, and welcome back into the SFS channel. My name's Gavin, and today we've got 5 must-sell wide receivers here as we head into these Week 3 fantasy matchups. I've also posted 5 must-buy wide receivers, so maybe you can even put those videos up against one another and see if you can find a situation where you can flip one of these players for another that's in that other episode, so go check that one out as well. But as always, of course, if you have questions about your leagues, about trades, anything specifically related to your fantasy football team, drop that down in the comment section below. I'd happy to get back to you and give you some advice and help so you can get the edge in your fantasy matchups this week. With that being said, thank you all so much for tuning into today's video. If you're new around here, click that subscribe button and leave today's video with a like. But let's hit that intro and get straight in to our first must-sell player. All right, here we go. So I always feel like the bearer of bad news, or like the Grinch who stole Christmas, or I'm just ruining somebody's day when I put players on this must-sell episode, because at the end of the day, someone has one of these players on their fantasy teams in every single league. So I'm not trying to upset anyone here, but these are players who right now, I think their value is higher than what they're actually going to be producing in the big picture for the rest of the season. So simply, we're looking to take these investments you've made on draft day and get a return on them, because I think you can upsell them and get more than what they're actually worth in return because of how they've played through 2 weeks here. So Deebo Samuel, fantastic numbers week 1 and week 2. Did very, very well against the Detroit Lions, and then in week 2, he was also very productive as well. He's actually the #1 player in receiving yards in the entire league right now because of those performances, but I don't expect this to be consistent production, and I don't expect him to hold up this end of the deal. George Kittle has been incredibly underproductive here in the first 2 games. That's something I expect to change, and I think he'll get back on track. Only 4 catches for 17 yards in week 2. He's going to be more involved, more utilized. This is a perennial top 3 fantasy tight end as we've grown to respect him and to evaluate him in the pre-draft process. He's going to be utilized. He's one of the best run-after-catch players in the league, maybe the best all-around blocking and receiving game collectively looked at tight ends in the National Football League. Now, I think that there's other better pass-catching tight ends like a Darren Waller or a Travis Kelce, but the point being here, George Kittle is such a significant weapon for this offense. His usage is going to increase. Additionally, Brandon Ayuk, he's too talented to fail, guys. I know the production has been thin to none. I mean, 1 reception for 6 yards in the first 2 weeks total. Not what you want to see, but he's still working his way back onto the field. That hamstring injury really put a damper on his start to the season, but he wasn't all that productive at the start last year. He's going to come out here this year, start to produce. Once he gets healthy, back in that starting lineup and playing a full and legitimate snap share for this offense, he'll be putting up numbers and being a key factor for this football team. So right now in the passing game, it's kind of the Deebo Samuel show, and he is doing a great job in being highly productive with the work he's given. But again, at the end of the day, I don't think this production is sustainable. The numbers will drop. He's got a tough matchup if he's being viewed as the #1 wide receiver for this 49ers team against Green Bay this week. That means you're going to draw coverage from Jair Alexander, and then Deebo might have a quiet game. That's not the case in the situation you want if you're trying to sell a fantasy player right now. So go ahead and try and get a deal done. Now, don't sell him for a bag of chips and completely shoot yourself in the foot here. But if you can find one of those deals, one of those offers with that value in your league, pull the trigger on that one right away. Mike Evans, another one. I said this a whole week ago in advance. I said, heads up, if Mike Evans has a great game against the Atlanta Falcons, click that sell button. Boom. Get him off your team. Ooh, bad snap there. Mike Evans is a player who is incredibly boom or bust. He's touchdown dependent, and while he is a great football player as far as that goes in of itself, fantasy is a different game here. Touchdown dependency loses you weeks. That's why I say sell Adam Thielen. And speak of the devil, you're going to see him here in just a second. But while we're still talking about Mike, he had 2 touchdowns last week, 5 receptions, 75 yards, 2 touchdowns. This is going to be what you're depending on a week-over-week basis with AB, Gronk, Chris Godwin, all competing for opportunities and volume in this offense. It's not going to be consistent. Every week there is going to be an odd man or 2 odd men out of the situation for the Buccaneers offense. Tom can't feed all their mouths every week. It's just not possible. You can't produce that much offensively, so you're going to have a lot of very scarce games where Mike isn't putting up the numbers that you would like to see from him. Here he is, Adam Thielen. Same case in point. Justin Jefferson's the number one in this offense. Don't try and kid yourself. Don't try and tell yourself otherwise. Thielen's got 3 touchdowns this year, but less targets than Justin Jefferson has so far. He's only got 1 touchdown. And each week of the first 2 games this season, Jefferson's out-targeted Adam Thielen. That trend will continue for the rest of the year. As a rookie, Justin Jefferson had nearly 500 yards more receiving than Adam Thielen did, but Adam Thielen had double the touchdown production that Justin Jefferson had. So if at any point Thielen cools off and stops scoring touchdowns at this ridiculous and immense clip that he's been doing it at over the past season and now moving into like a season and a quarter, it's going to be ugly. I mean, he had 37 yards receiving last week, if I remember that right off. It was either 37 or 39. I mean, if you take that touchdown at the board, you're instantly looking at a much less and reduced situation and output from him. So hit that sell button. His value is still very high. The production looks very, very good. He's a 2 for 2 right now in terms of being a quality lineup start and actually delivering those type of numbers. So get him off the team before he tanks and hits one of those rough games, because then his fantasy stock's going to drop and it's going to be even harder to move off of him as an asset. But again, this is an upsell. You're not just selling him for a bag of Cheetos. You want Adam Thielen to actually bring a quality starter back to your roster that you feel more comfortable with, or even he might add some depth. Maybe you're weak at wide receiver 2 and flex, and you use him to go address both of those positions, and now your bases are covered over a wider array of things here. So there's multiple ways to attack this. That's what I'm here for. Drop those trade offers down in the comment section below, and I'll help you try and get a deal done. At this number 4 spot, Julio Jones. Another player, he's not the one in his offense. Julio Jones might be the best wide receiver of the last decade, but right now, A.J. Brown is still the top dog on this team. He's out-targeted Julio Jones, similarly to Justin Jefferson has for Adam Thielen's sake. And although Julio had the productive game against Seattle, A.J. Brown will still throw the football only one more time than Julio, but that's still relevant in the fact that Ryan Tannehill is actively looking to feed A.J. Brown the football, regardless of how productive his other wide receiver is being. Another thing with Julio, I don't trust his health. He's good right now. He's healthy, up on 2 legs, producing fantasy points. But watching him the last few years, getting banged up mid-season with an even longer schedule this year with that added game on top of things makes me really worried. I don't want to be without my wide receiver 2. Heck, he's probably a wide receiver 1 for some teams out there. I don't want to be missing that piece of my roster in a crucial game where I need to win my matchup that week. So I'm actively trying to move off Julio Jones. I'm not like smashing the panic button and the trade button here, but this is someone I would gradually be looking for trade offers for, fielding calls, and just seeing if I can pick up a more dependable, younger player who's got similar upside, talent, traits, all that good stuff. I think that Julio can still have some serviceable lineup value for us, but when we're going to see games from the Tennessee Titans that they control the ball, and they've trailed in each of the first 2 weeks. They've had to pass late. They've had to force the ball downfield to catch up. There's going to be games when Derrick Henry, for the first minute to the last, runs the show, and Tennessee doesn't have to pass the ball downfield. That's going to be a game when Julio Jones has a bust performance. He's a boom or bust play. There's a lot of risk here. Move off of this one. And then finally, this is going to stir the pot a little bit here. I can tell people are probably already getting riled up seeing this. Cooper Kupp. Now, before you freak out, before you start typing in the comment section, Cooper Kupp, I'm almost positive, will not finish as the wide receiver 1 this year, which is what he currently is. The production has been insane. It's been highly impressive. It's been awesome to see. But his value is at an all-time sky high. Pick your poison. You can probably offer Cooper Kupp and have your pick of the field in some fantasy leagues out there where team managers aren't really reading into the value their players have. There's a ton of Class A wide receiver 1s in fantasy right now that aren't producing up to their ceilings, while Cooper Kupp is. When those players hit their ceiling, get back on track, they shake the dust off, and they're off and running to the races, Cooper Kupp's going to be settling back in. Robert Woods has been very, very quiet here in the first 2 weeks. He caught a touchdown pass in week 1. Week 2, he had 9 targets, but wasn't overly productive. Things are going to mellow out here. They're going to steady out. These were 2 highly competitive football games in weeks 1 and 2, and I expect Kupp to be very productive here in week 3 against Tampa. But at the end of the day, the point being here, these numbers are not sustainable. For a guy who is not an elite red zone threat, he's got 3 touchdowns in 2 weeks, 168 yards against the Colts. The numbers, I don't want to say they're too good to be true, but it's going to be very, very hard for him to sustain this production. If you can go out there and get a Diggs, heck, an Adams, maybe Tyreek Hill after he had a down week in week 2, it's not that you're necessarily going to get all these players, but toss an offer out there. So maybe, the video title is must sell wide receivers. I'm not trying to just shovel Cooper Kupp off my hands this week, but I'm certainly looking to take advantage of the elite production he's had, because right now he is the number 1 wide receiver in fantasy football. You can use that as an active trader to look and upsell him for more value and get a return on investment for a guy who is probably your 5th round pick in your league. So that's the point here. Again, I'm not all that panicked on Cooper Kupp. I think he will finish as a top 12 wide receiver, but right now the value is too dang good to pass on, and if you can get one of those top tier grade A options, you need to do so. Otherwise, you'd be doing your team a disservice. All right, those were 5 wide receivers. I'm shopping around in the trade market this week, trying to sell them, upsell for more value, get some more starting level players back and return on my roster, or find a better option that I think can be more consistent and dependable for me down the stretch of the season. So thank you all so much for watching today's video. Make sure to click that subscribe button if you're new around here before you head out, and turn that bell on so you're never late for an episode or miss a video here on the channel. Leave a like as well, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace out.